Hey, welcome to Preeminent Test Prep. Today's day 48 in our 90-day SAT prep series. Today we're going to be spending about half an hour with the math no calculator section, and then we're going to be spending anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes with the SAT writing and language section. So make sure to like, subscribe, and share for more content from Preeminent Test Prep. And with that, let's get into what we're going to do today. So for today, we're going to start with the math no calculator section. So that's what I'll be talking about right now. What we're going to do is you've seen me take three math no calculator sections the way I would if I were taking the SAT. You saw that in days 45, 46, and 47. And then on day 44, you saw me outline to you how I would recommend that you pace it when you take the math no calculator section. So I broke down the question order that I would go in, how I would pace it, how much time I would devote to checking my work, how much time you should try to get to have left at the end after you've answered all the questions. So what I want you to do is if you have those notes out from day 44, glance over those in the next minute or so while I talk, and then in about a minute or a minute and a half here, I would like for you to start with SAT Practice Test 4, the Math No Calculator section, and you go through it as you would if you were taking it on test day. So try to follow the pacing that I outlined in day 44 and that I showed you on days 45 through 47. So try to use that pacing as you do this. So today you're going to be really working on your pacing for the Math No Calculator section, okay? So at the same time, try to make sure you use those tips, tricks, and strategies that I've shown you with the Math No Calculator section. So all of the tricks where you can add or subtract, get rid of variables, and solve for answers. Anything that you can use to take less time, make sure you're doing that. So try to follow all those things that I showed you as far as how you can be the most efficient that you can in finding the correct answer, and then also follow all of the pacing strategies that I outlined in day 44. So that's going to be what you're going to be doing today for the Math No Calculator section. So it's SAT Practice Test 4, the Math No Calculator section. You can find the link to the practice test in the description. After today, tomorrow, I'll be going through this same practice test. So I'll be going through SAT Practice Test 4, the Math No Calculator section, in that same walkthrough format that I did yesterday. So you'll see me approach this section. You'll be able to compare how you did with your pacing and how I paced, as well as strategies for each different question. So you can see if you're kind of simulating or emulating what I'm doing. Okay, so hopefully that is helpful. So with that, go ahead and pull up SAT Practice Test 4 in another tab and print it off, or you can just work with it from the other tab on your computer. So either way, print it off or work with the other tab. I'd recommend printing it if you can, but if you can't, that's okay. Just have a notebook out or a workbook. And with that, we're going to get started here in about 10 seconds. So I'm going to put an image or something up on the screen that'll say that time has started and you can begin now, and that will occur in 3, 2, 1, begin. Okay, your 25 minutes is now up, so hopefully you were able to pace it like I suggested in day 44. Hopefully it wasn't too difficult, and tomorrow we're going to go over the answers, right, and I'll be pacing it through as I would if I were taking it, so you'll be able to see how I did pacing versus how you did, things that I do that you didn't do that you could use to improve, and things like that. So make sure to stay tuned in for tomorrow's video, and with that, let's go ahead and switch over to the writing and language section for today. Alright, for the writing and language section today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through the third and fourth passages of SAT Practice Test 4. So if you want to pull up SAT Practice Test 4, you can find it linked in the description along with all of the other practice tests. Just click that link, go to the College Board. You can pull up the PDF and follow along there, or you can print it out if you would like and take notes on that hard copy if you want to print it off. Make sure you have a notebook out as well, right? Having a notebook out so you can take notes on things like that, such as grammar rules, things such as strategies, all of that. So today what I'm going to be focusing on as I go through is once again focusing on teaching you what to look for, right? So with the SAT writing section, a lot of it is understanding what to look for, right? Understanding what the question is testing. If you can understand what the question is testing your ability to do, then it makes it a lot easier to answer the question. So what I'm going to be focusing on doing is teaching you what it's testing on every question, and then how you can use your understanding of what it's testing then to find that correct answer. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and get started with the first passage. Be sure you have a notebook out and try to follow along, try to pay attention to what I'm kind of showing you as far as insights. Keep in mind I've scored perfectly on the SAT writing section back-to-back on back-to-back SATs. So I've scored perfectly on the SAT writing section twice. It was on back-to-back SATs. Let's go ahead and get started. So you have "you are where you say." Research on regional variations in English language use has not only yielded answers to such, and now I'm told the writer wants to convey an attitude of genuine interest, okay, genuine interest, and to avoid the appearance of mockery. What best accomplishes this goal? Well, we're talking about regional variations in the English language. It's yielded answers to such questions as how people in different parts of the United States refer to carbonated beverages. Okay, now that right there, that's not a life-altering question. Okay, it's not galvanizing, and it's not a weird question either, but it is an intriguing question. And the use of the word intriguing here, that shows a genuine interest, and it's not showing any mockery. Okay, so that's going to be our correct answer there. We want to pay attention to what it's asking us to do. In this case, convey an attitude of genuine interest, which intriguing does, and avoid mockery, which intriguing also does. Now, which choice would show mockery? Mockery would be life-altering. Mockery would be weird. Okay, or I guess I should put X's there instead of check marks. Okay, I'll put an M for mockery again next to those two, so you know why those are wrong. Okay, those both, they show mockery. Galvanizing, that does not show genuine interest, so that would be why that one's wrong. All right, now we got 24. Okay, so we go down, we have, it also illustrates how technology can change the very nature of research. Okay, well, what's doing that? Let's take a look. If we rewind a little bit, right? I'm going to put this in green now so you can see I'm rewinding. We have research in regional variations in the English language has not only yielded answers to such intriguing questions as how people in different parts of the United States refer to carbonated beverages. Okay, the key thing right there is the word not only. Okay, because we said not only up here, I'm putting it in green, I'm boxing it in green. Okay, I'll put a star by it so it's more visible. Because I say it has not only yielded answers to certain things, I have to say but also. Okay, anytime we have not only, we want to pair that with but also. Okay, not only this, but also that. Okay, so that one right there, that is a pairing of two different phrases we want to keep together, so our answer there has to be C, right? But also illustrates, and then whatever it illustrates. So that right there is understanding that there are certain paired words like that where we want to keep them together. In this case, it's not only this, but also that. Okay, so that's a pairing of words that we want to have together. All right, so now we have, well, traditional human-intensive data collection, and now we have a word there. In language studies. Okay, so we're asked for which choice is most effectively setting up the contrast in the sentence and is consistent with the information in the rest of the passage. Okay, well, what's setting up a contrast in the sentence, right? So, while traditional human-intensive data collection, and then something, the explosion of social media has opened new avenues for investigation. Okay, well, that explosion of social media opening new avenues for investigation, we don't really know, or at least it doesn't give us much of an indication of what should come before it right here, right? But now what we do know is that it has to be consistent with the rest of the passage. Now, since that right there, the opening new avenues for investigation, it's not giving us a ton, or at least not really, in my opinion, enough to answer this question. What we're going to want to do then is focus on it's being consistent with information in the rest of the passage. And we want to do that anyway, and we don't know the rest of the passage. So what we have to do here is we have to come back to 25, okay? Because we have to know what the rest of the passage, what its stance on human-intensive data collection is. Okay, so we want to keep that in our mind as we go through them. All right, so let's go ahead and let's keep going. So we've got We have a 1 here, which means we're going to go find whatever that's asking us as far as what sentence. We see that it's right here, 27. To improve cohesion and flow of this paragraph, the writer wants to add the following sentence. Data gathering proved to be the quick part of the project. What sentence should be most logically placed after? All right, well, before it, then we have to talk about data gathering, because we say data gathering proved to be the quick part of the project. So before it, we need to talk about data gathering. Okay, so that needs to come before it, so I'll put a B there. Now what needs to come after it is going to have to be a lengthy part. Okay, we talk about data gathering being the quick part, so what comes after it then should be the lengthy part of this experiment or this project. So now we can place that as we read through. All right, so we have perhaps the epitome of traditional methodology is the Dictionary of American Regional English, colloquially known as DARE. Its fifth and final alphabetical volume, ending with Zydeco, released in 2012, the dictionary represents the decades of arduous work over a 6-year period from 1965 to 1970. University graduate students conducted interviews in more than 1,000 communities across the nation. Their goal was to determine what names people used for everyday objects and concepts as a marine or a submarine sandwich, a hero in New York City, but a dagwood in many parts of Minnesota, Iowa, and Colorado, and a heavy rainstorm, variously known as a gully washer, pour down, or stump mover. The work that dictionary founder Frederick G. Cassidy had expected to be finished by 1976 was in fact not completed in his lifetime. Okay, so that's showing something took much longer than expected. Okay, so that data collection then was that short part. Now what is the long part then? Okay, let's see if we have something where the long part coming after here. We have the weight did not dampen enthusiasm among scholars. Okay, I repeat the word scholars here, so I want to do a comma then, and I want to do the word who since I'm talking about a subject. Okay, so I'm going to look for an option that has a comma and then the word who there. See if we have one. Where is that question? Okay, it's up here. Okay, I'm going to have answer choice D then for 26, right? Anytime I repeat the same subject twice, what the best move is to get rid of that second subject. And in this case, since it's a person or a group of people, we would do a comma and then we would do the word who. Okay, so that's just one note right there, is anytime you have the same subject repeated twice, once at the end of a sentence, once at the beginning, you're going to want to put a comma, and then if this sentence that comes after, right, is describing that person, just put a comma and put who. So answer there for 26 is going to be D. Okay, but let's just go ahead, and we were on 25. I couldn't answer that one yet. So we're going down through trying to place this sentence, right? So before we want to talk about data gathering, which we did in sentence 5. We talk about this dictionary founder expecting it to be finished by 1976, but it was not finished. Okay, that's talking about a lengthy process then. Okay, so we're talking about our data collection in sentence 4. Now in sentence 5, we transition and we talk about how it took much longer than expected, right? We talk about that lengthy part. It took longer than his lifetime. So at that point, we're talking about lengthy, right? So that's covering what should come after. So we want to place it before sentence 5, and we want to place it after sentence 4 then, okay? Because sentence 4 talks about that data gathering, right? Talking about the dagwood in parts of Minnesota, gully washer. So we're talking about collecting data on what different words mean in different places. And then after that, we talk about it being a lengthy process. So we want to split that up. Our answer then is going to be in sentence 4. Okay, so we want that lengthy part talking about it not being completed in his lifetime coming after, and that was in sentence 5, so we want to place it before sentence 5 and after sentence 4. All right, so 27 answer there would be C. At this point, we can keep going down. We got not all research into regional English varieties requires such time. Okay, now the key part here is understanding that we're referring to research here. Okay, not all research. Now into regional English varieties, we ignore that because this question right here is testing our ability to find the subject. Right? The subject here is research, and we would say research requires such time. Okay, research is singular, and the verb requires is also singular. Okay, so our answer there is going to be A for number 28. Okay, that one right there is just testing our ability to match a number. Keep in mind it's also testing our ability to match, looks like tense as well, right? We want to make sure we're matching tense. In this case, we are as well by saying the word requires. Okay, next up we've got, however, today's researchers have found that the veritable army of trained volunteers traveling the country conducting face-to-face interviews can sometimes be replaced by another army. Okay, I'm guessing I see I have all the same words, so it's just dealing with punctuation here. So as far as punctuation goes, if I read this, I'm going to put it in blue so you can see what I'm talking about now a little bit better. Let me erase this. We have today's researchers have found that the veritable army of trained volunteers traveling the country conducting face-to-face interviews can sometimes be replaced by another army. Okay, that ends my first independent clause. Okay, so I'm ending my first independent clause there. Okay, I don't want to split the word replaced up with anything, so we want to get rid of the word. We can get rid of B because it splits replaced and by. We don't want to split those. I'm looking at option A. We say replaced by another army, and then we just say the vast array of individuals. We need something after army, so A is wrong. We need a piece of punctuation after the word army. So now I'm looking at a colon versus a semicolon. Now in this case, my idea is illustrating the idea that comes before it, so I'm going to want to use a colon there. So my answer there is going to be D for number 29. Okay, because saying the vast array of individuals volunteering details about their lives and inadvertently their language through social media, that's illustrating how we can replace those face-to-face interviews by that another army. Okay, we're illustrating that idea, so we're going to want to connect those with that colon. Okay, that colon can be used when a first independent clause is connected with another independent clause, and that second independent clause is illustrating the idea in the first. Okay, so answer there is going to be D. All right, now keep in mind at this point, it looks like we can keep going down. Now, we still have to answer 25, I believe it was, which is talking about the human collection of data and what that kind of, its importance and its role is nowadays, so just keep that in mind as well. So we have Bryce Russ of Ohio State University, for example, has employed software to sort through postings on one social media site. That's the wrong site. This is a homophone question. Okay, the correct version of site here is S-I-T-E. Okay, S-I-T-E, that is a website, right? That would be a .com or a .gov or whatever, okay? That's referring to a website. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you what the other homophones are just so you understand them. C-I-T-E, that would be citing your sources. So if you've ever had an English project where you had to cite your sources, that's what C-I-T-E is. That's citing your sources. So you could think about that with MLA format, right? MLA citations, you're citing your sources. The next version of cite is S-I-G-H-T, okay? And that one right there, I'll just draw an eyeball because that is your version of cite, okay? That's looking at things, okay? So that's a homophone question. Answer for 30 is going to be B. All right, so now with that, let's just go ahead, keep reading. We're still keeping in mind we have to answer 25. So we have particular words and phrases of interest as well as the location from which users are posting. From these data, he was able, among other things, to confirm regional variations in people's terms for soft drinks as the map shows. Now, one thing that I see right away is I have a series of 3 words for 31. And I see I have those same 3 words here, so I know I'm probably going to be dealing with something there. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at 31. We have the writer wants the information in the passage to correspond as closely as possible with the information in the map. Given that the goal, and assuming the rest of the previous sentence would remain unchanged, in which sequence should the terms for soft drinks be discussed? All right, so I've got a map showing me what they are referred to in different states. I'm going to answer that as I read through them. As the map shows, and it's going to be either soda, Coke, or pop, is commonly heard in the middle and western portion of the United States. Okay, middle and western portion of the United States. That's going to be right around here, where this blue is. Okay, that's right around my middle and western portions. Okay, that's where it is. We see that they refer to that as pop. So pop needs to be my first term. So A is wrong because that says soda, and D is wrong because that says soda, and I need pop as my first term. Okay, next thing I've got is frequently, next one is frequently used in many southern states. I'm going to put that in green just so we can see that difference. Okay, so now we're looking at southern states. So let's take a look at our map. I'll put it in green here as well. We have our southern states are going to be right around this group here. Okay, these are going to be our southern states. We see that they refer to it as Coke. So our second term then needs to be the term Coke. Okay, so we should have pop, then we should have the term Coke. So our answer there is going to be C for number 31. All right, now we can go ahead. We got question 32. Okay, but used elsewhere as well. As interesting as Russ's findings are, though, their true value, okay, that's referring to his findings, okay, their true value. Findings is plural. It's got to be possessive. This is a homophone question, testing our ability to find the correct version of their. Correct version of their is going to be T-H-E-I-R, because that's the possessive pronoun. Okay, so that leaves us with answer choices B and D. We see in D we use the wrong there right there, so D is wrong. We use the correct there in both spots in answer choice B, so B is our correct answer for 32. All right, so now we've got question 33, which choice most effectively concludes the sentence in the paragraph? We have a reminder that the internet is not merely a sophisticated tool for collecting data, but is also itself a rich source of data. Yes, okay, we're talking about how we can harvest social media as a rich source of data, so that is effectively concluding our sentence and paragraph. So our answer there would be A. All right, at this point, what I want to do then is go back and answer 25. So as we talked through this, we never said that human data collection is invalid or that it's not important. In fact, we make the argument that, well, we have this social media ability to collect information, human collection still does play an important part, right? So we're not saying that it's the only option, so C is incorrect, right? We're not saying human intensive data collection is the only option in language studies because we are saying social media use is also an option. So C is wrong. Yielding questionable results, we never say it yields questionable results, and we never say that it disappeared either. Okay, so A is wrong. Okay, now we would say it still has an important place. Now, do we ever explicitly state that it has an important place? I think that we might. I'll be honest, I don't exactly remember if we ever specifically state it has an important place. But even if we do not state specifically or explicitly that it has an important place, we do so implicitly. Okay, through our tone throughout this passage, we implicitly state that there is still a place for human data collection, right? At the very least, human data collection needs to be paired with that social media use, okay? So it still does have an important place, okay? And even if we don't say that explicitly, which I think that we might, I'm not totally sure we don't, we definitely do say that implicitly through our tone throughout the passage. All right, so now we can go down. Looks like we've answered everything for that first passage. We can go ahead and go on to our second passage. So we have creating worlds, a career in game design. If you love video games and have thought about how the games you play might be changed or improved, or if you've imagined creating a video game on your own, you might want to consider a career as a video game designer. Okay, there are a number of steps you can take. Okay, that one right there is testing your ability with tense and number. Correct answer, there's going to be there are. Okay, that's kind of an idiomatic question a little bit. Just a little bit of an idiomatic question. It's not really dealing with prepositions or anything, right? And it might not be an idiomatic question, but really if you're just thinking about it, anytime that you're saying there are a number of steps you can take, right? That's kind of something where if you just kind of say it out loud, and keep in mind, obviously you can't talk on the SAT, but you can kind of say it in your head. If you were to say there are a number of steps you can take, that sounds better than saying there were a number of steps you can take. Okay, were would be past tense. We're talking about present tense. Okay, so we're talking about tense here. We want to keep it present tense. There are a number of steps you can take to determine whether game design is the right field for you. Okay, there are a number of steps. Okay, so that's present tense. Okay, we are speaking in the present tense up here, saying if you love video games, that's present tense. So we want to keep that present tense. By maintaining that present tense, we're going to have to use the word see, which is are. Okay, we want to maintain the present tense there. So it's not an idiom question. I apologize. It is not an idiomatic question. That is my bad. Not an idiomatic question. This is testing our ability to judge tense here. Okay, that was my mistake. All right. So there are a number of steps you can take to determine whether game design is the right field for you, and if it is, prepare yourself for such a career. Before making the choice, you should have some sense of what a video game designer does. Every video game, whether for a console, computer, or mobile device, starts with a concept that originates in the mind of a designer. The designer envisions the game's fundamental elements. Okay, now I describe those fundamental elements. I say the settings, character, and plots that make each game unique. That's describing those elements. Now, the next thing I see is I continue my thought leading after elements, right? I say, the designer envisions the game's fundamental elements and is thus a primary creative force behind the game. So that's telling me that this right here that I'm putting in parentheses is non-essential. Okay, now since it's non-essential, it can be taken out. So what I want to do is I want to match my two pieces of punctuation on that non-essential. So I know it starts here. I'll put a line. I'm going to put a blue line so you can see the difference between the green real quick. Okay, blue line there to blue line here. That's non-essential. I'll put an NE there, which means we have to offset it with something, right? Now, if we're going to look for what to offset it with, let me find where that question is. It's up here. I'm looking at 2 dashes right here. Okay, 2 dashes. That's perfect. It offsets it. 35. Answer there is going to have to be C. Okay, so we're looking for what's going to offset that. In this case, that's going to use dashes. So that one right there is perfect. All right, so now we can go ahead and move down. Now we got 36. So we have conceptualizing a game is only the beginning of a video game designer's job, however. Okay, that's a sentence on its own. So we want to have a period there. And then we have to capitalize the word now. Okay, so we find our answer that has that. We see that that's going to be B, so B would be our correct answer for 36. Okay, now I just want to spend a little bit more time here for a minute. Conceptualizing a game is only the beginning of a video game designer's job. Okay, that's an independent clause. Now we have the word however. Okay, so the word however, now the word however, it could start a sentence. It's possible. It could also end a sentence in this case. Now we wouldn't want to put a dash and then say the word however and then use a comma and then say no matter how good a concept is, it will never be translated into a video game unless it is communicated effectively to all members of the video game development team. Okay, because then we're connecting two independent clauses with a comma. That's a comma splice, right? So C would be wrong. Next thing, D, also a run-on sentence because there's no punctuation. That's just a run-on sentence with two independent clauses. Option A, also a comma splice, right? So the only option here that really connects those two grammatically correctly is B, because it's the only one with a period. You also could have used a semicolon. If they would have done that, that would have worked as well. In this case, though, really making sure that we're avoiding a run-on sentence or a comma splice. Okay, understand we want to avoid comma splices, avoid run-on sentences. Therefore, our answer for 36 is going to be B. All right, 37. At this point, the writer is considering adding the following sentence. So we have no matter how good a concept is, it has to be communicated effectively to all their members of the development team. Successful communication is essential if a designer's game is to become a reality. We just said that in the sentence before, so we don't want to add it because it's merely reformulating the thought that was expressed in the preceding sentence. So our answer for 37 there is D. All right, a designer must generate extensive documentation and explain his or her ideas in order to ensure the programmers, artists, and others on the team all share the same vision. Okay, which choice results in a sentence that best supports the point developed in this paragraph? All right, well, correct answer for 38 there, that's going to have to be A, right? We're talking about how in the previous part of the paragraph, right, and we want to support that point that we're developing in the paragraph, so we want to find that point. That point is that we have to communicate effectively, right? We say that right here, and then we go on to talk about how we need extensive documentation, and how we have to explain our ideas clearly or communicate successfully like we talked about above. Okay, so that's supporting that point developed. We wouldn't say possess a vivid imagination because we don't talk about that. There is no point made about that earlier on in the paragraph like we talk about in our question. We're not assessing our motivations because once again, we don't talk about that in our upper part of this paragraph. And not learning to accept constructive criticism because once again, we're not talking about that earlier up on this paragraph. Okay, key part there is understanding we have to support that point developed in the paragraph. That gets us to answer A for number 38. Okay, next thing I see, I have one word followed by a comma in the beginning of a sentence, so I know I'm trying to connect my previous sentence to my current sentence. Okay, so anyone considering a career as a video game designer must be skilled as a writer and speaker. We can't say skilled writers and speakers because those are both plural, and we're talking about one person, right? Anyone. Okay, that's singular. Okay, anyone considering a career as a video game designer must be skilled, must be a skilled writer and speaker. All right, so let's take a look, find which one has a skilled writer and speaker. We see that's answer choice B for number 40. Okay, so 40 answer there is going to have to be B. Now let's go ahead and go back. Let's answer 39. Okay, so 39, we want to connect these two sentences. While connecting them, we know that before this, we talked about how communication is essential. We have to be able to express our ideas clearly. Now we're talking about as a result of that, you have to be a skilled writer and speaker. So consequently would be our correct transition word there because that's showing that what comes in this next sentence is a result of that, right? As a result of it being necessary, you're able to communicate your ideas clearly, you must be a skilled writer and speaker. So that is a causal relationship or as a result. Okay, consequently means as a result. Okay, if you don't know what consequently means, it means as a result. So it's the perfect transition word there. So 39, answer there is going to be C. All right, moving down, we got question 41 now. I see I have a 1 here, so I'm going to be asked to place a sentence. So I'm going to go find the sentence I need to place. I see to make this paragraph most logical, sentence 5 should be placed where? Let's read sentence 5. We have A, designer also needs careful education preparation. So what comes after needs to be his educational preparation. Okay. So let's go back. We see a basic understanding of computer programming is essential. Okay, that could be something that's attained from education. So really, we should probably place it before sentence 1, but I'm going to read on a little bit just to make sure. We have, in fact, many designers initially begin their pursuits. Okay, we're talking about careers here. So we would look for something that says initially begins their career or something like that. Begin their careers. Okay, so answer there is going to be D. Okay, not progression. Not start to begin their work because start and begin, those mean the same thing, so that'd be redundant. Okay, and then A said pursuits. We're talking about careers specifically. So our answer there would be D for number 41. Now, as far as where we should place that sentence we just read, we're talking all about education here. We're talking about beginning your understanding of computer programming. That's essential. That's talking about education. Then we talk about the beginning of your career. Okay, so if we're going to talk about education, we need to have that come before sentence 1. So I'm going to go down here. We're going to have to place that before sentence 1. So B would be our answer for 44 because we want to place it before we start talking about your educational requirements. All right, so now we've got question 42. So let's work our way down there. So we've considered taking courses in general computer science as well as courses in artificial intelligence, graphics, in order to increase your understanding of the technical challenges involved in developing a video game. Courses in psychology and human behavior may help you develop blank collaboration skills. Okay, well, when we're talking about collaboration skills, we wouldn't describe them as emphatic, we wouldn't describe them as paramount or eminent. In this case, we talked about collaboration skills earlier on in this passage. We talked about them as being very, very important to being a video game designer. Okay, so our answer there would be D. These are important collaboration skills because we have to be able to communicate successfully to our team. So our answer for 42 would be D. Okay, so that one right there, This one right here is really kind of testing your ability to have read through the text and understand that we talked a lot about being able to communicate and how important that was. So this one right here, if you can understand the context of the passage, that one becomes very, very easy. All right, so now what else is there? It looks like we've got just 43 left. Okay, so we've got, although demanding and deadline driven, so we'll just jump down here real quick. Although demanding and deadline driven, video game design can be a lucrative and rewarding field for people who love gaming and have prepared themselves with the necessary skills and knowledge. All right, well, although demanding and deadline driven, that has to modify video game design because that's what it's describing. It can't modify the choice. It can't modify you or choosing. Okay, it has to modify option A, which is video game design. Okay, that's a modifier and it has to modify or come right next to what it's modifying. So we know it has to modify video game design. Therefore, our answer for 43 has to be A. All right, so hopefully that was helpful. Let's just run through, make sure we've answered all of them. It looks like we have. Okay, we can just run through. We'll check our other passage as well real quick, make sure we answered all of those. Looks like we did. All right, so as far as things, hopefully that was helpful, right? Hopefully you're really starting to see how to get to the correct answer. Hopefully you're understanding grammar rules at this point, and hopefully this is helpful. So if it is helpful, there'll be a donation link in the description when it's up and running. Any private SAT tutoring I'm doing will be linked in the description. Any private college admissions consulting I'm doing will be linked in the description. As always, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and have a great day.